Our next guest brings up the idea that maybe we're trying to control our world too much. Maybe we need to let go a little bit. He also expands on highly sensitive people. So let's go.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders. Hey, just a quick reminder, please follow us on our social media. We'd really love to have you follow us, leave comments, and like us. And also, I will put a link below. We also have a media page where all of our guests share their books. So I hope you'll visit that. Hey, Giant Builders, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. Today's guest is Andrzej Konsalski. How are you today?
Amazing. I'm looking forward to dive straight into this conversation, how giants can be built.
Cool. Well, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do?
Oh boy, where do I start? I got here because basically I made all the mistakes that were possible to be made, but eventually those mistakes became my experience. But I have been on this journey for a long now. And it started because I was different. I experienced reality through different lenses. I have been born as a highly sensitive person and what is called a psychic, and many of those, what I call right now, mumbo jumbo pseudo spirituality stuff, because people focus on it so much that it grows their ego while the soul takes a backseat on this journey called life. But eventually I had those gifts and no one in my environment had it. And I came to the only possible explanation. I'm crazy. There's something wrong with me. I need to be fixed. So I started this journey and I went from practically countless modalities: psychology, NLP, dietetics, coaching, business coaching, you name it, I've done it. Silva mindfulness techniques. I actually forget so many stuff that I went through, like holotropic breathing. It's called internal family setting, something like that. Ho'opono. I've done it all. And guess what? It didn't fix me at all. That journey was doomed from the start because there was nothing wrong with me. God doesn't make mistakes, neither does nature. Everything between heaven and earth is perfect. Well, I accepted that. I stopped fighting with myself and I put my eyes to the East and the knowledge and wisdom from the East. And I'm talking about traditional Chinese medicine. I'm talking about Qigong, Kung Fu, Tai Chi Chuan. I'm talking about esoteric Tao, which I must say I became a huge fan, because if you're a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, the laws of the universe apply to all of us. And well, again, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, Muslim, or Jew, you're gonna breathe the same way. You're gonna inhale and you're gonna exhale. And the Tao is about explaining how the universe works by observing, going beyond the bias of the mind, going beyond the pollution of the mind or attachments to the emotion. So I became a fan.
So, what did you learn most?
I learn every day. And that is the thing. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. I say I wake up at 6. I train Tai Chi Chuan for an hour. I then do day trading, which mostly will not interest you at all. But what I do is called Wu Wei, acting by not acting. Basically, after so many hours that I meditated, I realized that I'm growing my ego because I plan it. And you cannot plan the growth of the soul. That's silly. The flower doesn't plan when to bloom. It doesn't have a to-do list. When it's ready, and then it blooms. So with ego, you can only slow down the process, not to mention there could be several repercussions when doing meditation incorrectly. So I realized I will just embrace what the universe has in store for me and completely let go and completely surrender. I become a puppet in the hands of the god. But by doing that, I became a puppeteer of my own destiny.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
It is. It's so simple. You have to meditate at all the times. So obviously, it's very hard to do. And the consequence of it is people have this tendency that I observe that they are running away from their nature, their emotions, and they engage into coping mechanism or to escape from reality. And many times that is personal development, that is spirituality. And this is a tool that can either build you or destroy you. And if it's used incorrectly, it's going to destroy you. And many people use that to grow their egos, and that is not the way. Unfortunately, the only way to grow in life is to do what scares you the most, is to confront your emotions, is to realize that although we are all different and we have been dealt different cards by the God, we have to play accordingly with them, because God have planned for all of us and he envisioned a place for you. And if you're not there, first of all, he will be very gentle. He will give you a delicate nudges. But if you're not gonna listen, and many of us don't listen, I know because I was one of that person. So he stopped being gentle and he started kicking my butt to get me where I should be. And I always knew that I should serve and teach and help other people. But, being highly sensitive, we have this tendency, we have this bias that doing the right thing to do is not only the right thing to do, but it's the only thing to do. And there are so many people in the world that would gladly stab you in the back just to get ahead, that I came to the conclusion that humanity, society is wrong, and I should get rich and strive for money. And guess what? I got money. And guess what? It didn't solve anything in my life. In fact, I got existence full of grief and sadness. You need something to fill that hole in your heart. And all of us have been born with a mission to do. And if we're gonna run away from it, shy away from it, well, it's not gonna disappear. Just because you're gonna pretend to be blind, it doesn't mean you lost sight. It just means you're acting like a kid and you need to grow up. And that's what I had to do, grow up and embrace who I was.
Yeah, we all have to grow up, no matter what our age is. So just in case some of our listeners have not ever heard of, can you expand on what a highly sensitive person is?
Highly sensitive person for all of us. Well, it started with a traumatic event in our childhood that caused us to be hyper vigilant of our surroundings, meaning we are able to attune to energies and frequencies of our surroundings. That sounds great, does it? But it also means we are super responders. It means instead of having 5 fingers, guess what? We have 50 fingers. We feel everything. And as a consequence, well, consequence is that it might be overwhelming, it might be draining. On the one side, we are able to manifest much sooner and much faster. But on the other hand, while we are able to sponge negative emotions when we are not aligned, because many of us have this tendency to be not able to speak freely about themselves because we have fear of expression. And fear oftentimes leads to anger and resentment towards ourselves. The biggest blocking point, the biggest pain that highly sensitive people have is actually with interacting with others when they do sponge negative emotion from others. And that is because, well, it starts from being overwhelmed from external stimulus that makes them ungrounded. And when you're ungrounded, your energy, your thoughts, your emotions, your soul is everywhere else, but not in the body. And where it should be is the body. So when you interact with others, those emojis, those energies are it's really easy for them to take over the body. And what's going to happen then is we just stop breathing, our belly sinks and we freeze. And we look kind of stupid, like a deer in the middle of the night, looking freezing on the middle of the road while there are a car incoming from the other direction. And we just freeze. Mm-hmm. But we're humans. We also have ego. So when we go back home, we play mind movies because we want to do something else. We want to act like we're the cool kids. And we plan and plan and plan. And guess what? When another interaction happens, we just freeze. Our belly sinks, we stop breathing, and it severely impacts our self-esteem to the point that we lose respect to ourselves. We start to resent ourselves. we start to be full of anger towards ourselves. And many times those mind movies that have been amiss might lead to a very severe anxiety that even basic activities like doing grossing, like doing the grocery, might be a challenge. There are many people that I work with that have issues going to the mall where there are many people because they are so easily swayed by other people's emotion. And it all started with this traumatic event. Like trauma itself is a bigger than life response that we have during a particular event in our life. So the brain doesn't want us to feel pain. So what's going to happen is we're going to take this event and we're going to put it in a little small box and never to be found again. But we carry that at all the times. It is like an invisible nail that we carry in the food that we cannot see and we cannot take out. And obviously, sooner or later, in this case, sooner, it will impact how we walk. It would impact our posture. And eventually, we will drag this food behind us, limping. And then the brain will create layers of the mind to make us think that this is normal. This is how people should walk. And in fact, those people that walk with their heads up and not dragging their foot behind them, what a weirdos. There's definitely something wrong with them. They need to go to a doctor, man. I tell you, this is something wrong with them. So trauma is a big thing. And I think trauma is a very big thing for everyone. It's like constantly carrying a heavy backpack that you don't realize that you carry. But once you're able to let go of the backpack, oh my God, there's so much freedom. And you perceive reality through completely different lenses.
Yeah, my husband is an HSP, highly sensitive person, and he can actually trigger down to like a couple of incidences when he was about 3 years old that you described, that was very traumatic with his father and his grandfather. And so, but also he's ADG, which in my house is attention deficit gifted. And so between those combinations, I've learned a lot of things over the last 40 years. So just to understand him and understand our marriage together and such. Now, one of the things you talked about, expand for me, please. Why are we not able to see things as like that we've been searching for our whole life? If it's like right there in front of our nose, how is it that we don't see those things?
Well, if you look how the mind operates, it is very similar to computer, and computer are made to process data, to make decisions, and all of computers have what? Software. Computers run software, and some of those software are faulty. So no matter what input you provide, the output would always be faulty as well. And it's about letting go of what is no longer serving us. And on long enough timeline, all the software, which could also called be beliefs, will not be serving us because we will outgrow them. So we need to let go of what is holding us back so we can be propelled into the future. And mind is no different. The body is no different.
So you gave me an example earlier about putting a cookie in front of an addict. Can you kind of expand on that?
That is a good experience. That is a good analogy. If you have two people in the room, the first one is a regular dude that can eat cake or not, doesn't really matter for him. But if you have a person that is addicted to sugar, to cakes, and you leave them for the minutes, oh boy, that person that is trying to quit, he would be fighting his internal demons all the time. You come back and he's like sweating. He is just like he ran a marathon. And then when you say, "Oh, guys, let's do some work," the guy's like, "Oh no, I'm already exhausted." And this is many people don't talk about it, but that this is the actual cause of a thing called burnout because you're fighting yourself so long, so much that it creates friction between you, the universe, your environment, whatever. It creates friction, and friction creates heat, and heat evaporates the fluid in the body, and that causes the burnout. So, idea is to stop fighting yourself, embrace who you are. If there is something that is holding you back, instead of searching externally, find that internally and release that. I also do believe that once we got exposed to the external environment, we can see what's within us. So there needs to be a mix. I like to personally either do the biggest change or the smallest change. I like to mix them because you get quick wins and you get big wins, and then you get momentum. And this is really amazing thing. I can tell you an experience that happened to me some time ago. Or maybe I'll tell you another one. I had a customer that she was struggling with a negative emotion that she was running away from, but I made her embrace that emotion. And the part of the process is the emotion itself lasts like 90 seconds, but since we are running away from that, got distracted with stimulus, it got deeper and deeper into the body to the point that we constantly carry that. So you need to allow that to resurface. And what I like to do is actually laugh at that event to show that you truly are bigger than the event, and that allows it to dissolve in so many layers that it's mind-boggling. And then also the layer that has been product of this emotion will also resurface. And all of my students say the same thing. It's mind-boggling that I used to believe this thing. This is crazy. This is stupid. And then organically their life changes to a very big degree because they are no longer their enemy. They're their friend. They literally don't have to do anything to have better relationships, increase how much they money make. It just happens to them because now they can see the opportunities that before they have been blind to, because they have been perceiving life through particular emotions or experiences that from the past that they, no matter their attitude or intention, they'd still try to attract that same event because they are living in the past. And by living in the past, they create their future. So it's really about letting go. And this journey is many times about unbecoming who we think we are to allow what we truly are to shine through. And then you can do really amazing things.
It sounds like it would be easy to like, oh, let them go, but it really isn't. I mean, what are some tips on how to not let our emotions control us?
Mm. I believe that emotions are neither bad or good, but they are a tool. They are a tool that through which we can experience who we truly are. And a tool means that it is to be used. If, for example, you would be baking a cookie into the oven and you made the cookie, and out of nowhere, the oven, which is a tool to make cookies, starts to talk with you. Hey, man, you need to do another set of cookies. You need to bake that. That would be crazy. That would be ridiculous. But it happens with us a lot. And I always like to say that you need to be aware of that emotion, which is always the first step. You need to understand what is going within yourself. It is similar to driving a car. If you're not looking left, right, front, or the back, that's a recipe for disaster. And this is the same scenario, basically. So you need to know who you truly are. And those changes are a bit difficult because many people that are on this journey, especially on spirituality journey or personal development journey, they like to be told that what they do is the right thing to do. But if it's the right thing to do, why are they not seeing the results that they want to see? They are in their own way. So it all starts with the awareness. You need to understand who you are. And then the how, it's not really that important. Literally, it's not really that important as the why. You need to understand why are you feeling this? Where does it come from? What is the root cause of this issue? It's like, if you have a tree and then the leaves fall down, you can rake it every day, but the leaves will still fall down. This is a very similar process. If you don't want to rake the leaves every day, you need to pull out the tree. And that is the process. The how is not actually not important. If the why is strong, the cost of the how is very low. That means the how will find you. If you truly want to change, if you understand what is going within yourself, then literally you can just laugh at it and it will be dissolved. But you need to embrace, like many people that go outside to business people that go outside to in the world that, they have ideas that they execute. Many of them, this is a recurring pattern. This is a recurring pattern I see, that they go out to the world to prove their self-esteem, that they are worthy. And why do they do that? Because deep inside they are not worthy. Because if they would, there wouldn't be a need to prove that, because you already have that. So this leads to this phase of grinding and hustling. But if you truly are worthy, and if you are truly enough, that what you need to do always find you, and it's just enough, and you don't really need to do a lot of things. So if you have that issue that you have been born with, or you have accumulated that through life journey, that is who you are. And if you say, I'm gonna improve my self-esteem, or I'm gonna decrease self-esteem, it doesn't work. Basically, it's like you're a hamster running into this wheel that hamster lands. It does not matter if you run left or right, you're still gonna be trapped into this loop. What you need to realize is that you are in the loop, and running won't do you much.
Tell me, what would a first meeting look like with you?
Well, I usually have this crazy ability that I can read people very easily. And I usually start with the fact, do they base more on logic? Or do they base more on energy? Or do they base more emotion? And that would be a different set. Also, since I have 3 offers, but the last offer is spiritual, so I don't, taking into consideration there are not many people that actually want to grow their soul, I don't market that at all. But I work with highly sensitive people. As I'm a highly sensitive person, I've been on the battlefield for so long, experimenting different things, that I'm confident that I can solve all of the issues very easily and block negative emotions to the point that you actually, it's a stepping stone, that I teach a technique that you become immune to negative emotions. They don't affect you in any way whatsoever. But then we need to go deeper to release that trauma, because this is only a temporary solution, like I like to say, because it didn't solve the issue at the root cause issue. And then as a businessman, I also work with business people. Business people usually operate from logic, so they need different approach. I like to approach them with something that I call silver mindfulness technique. I don't like hypnosis. I've done hypnosis before, but the problem with hypnosis is it only works on the mind. And people say it works even on the soul, which is crazy, but it only works on the mind. And the reality that we created is not only the mind, but it's also the emotion. And that means if we have experience, it's going to be created by the logic, by the mind, but the experience will be followed by emotions. So if you only change, like let's say you eat the sugar, right? That might be triggered by logic, but eventually the body will be addicted to sugar and will release chemicals from that addiction. So if you change only the mind and leave the chemicals running through the veins, well, it's gonna destroy the vessel that is called body, and it will reduce the lifespan of yourself. It's literally like putting boiling water into the glass and putting it into the fridge. That glass will just shatter. And if you, it's like 2 opposing forces. You're gonna say you're gonna be a great public speaker, but deep within you're afraid to speak in front of the people. Those 2 opposing forces will clash, and you might have some results, and most likely you will have some results, but at the cost of your lifespan, because you're just destroying your body. So I like to work with silver mindfulness technique because it also works on the emotions, and it allows people to not only reprogram the mind, but there are techniques that I developed that allow the patterns, the layers of the mind to resurface so you can become aware of them. Because I believe that all flowers bloom into time. So I'm gonna lead you in that direction, but you have to walk alone, because many times the journey is more important than the goal itself. And that means you're going to learn some great, great things about yourself. But if I'm going to spoil it for you, that would lose value. It's like going to a movie that you already seen and you know how it's going to end. It has no value whatsoever. So I'm going to ask you tons of rhetorical questions that I already know the answer to. But by asking those questions, I would like you to put attention on those things that I ask you and observe and observe and observe. And well, that's going to start dissolving process of what's holding you back. And on the other hand, we're going to go into direction that you want, to lightness. Many people only focus on the lightness only to find the darkness, because duality, that's how it works. So it's a tailor-made approach for a person that comes through me, because I don't like to plan ahead, because I don't think you can even plan ahead. Like it happened a few weeks ago to me that I was doing some podcast, and I'm like, okay, after the podcast, guess what? I will go for a massage, and I will go to eat in my favorite restaurant. And I already started planning that. I already started seeing that. Guess what? It started raining and I couldn't go nowhere. And all of that energy was just lost. So that is a similar approach. First of all, like a good doctor, if you go to a good doctor, he will ask you questions to see what the issue is. A bad doctor will just give you a painkiller pill. Here, take this, or give you a band-aid on a broken knee. And unfortunately, it seems that this is the state of our healthcare around the world. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you love yourself, if you respect yourself, you're going to give yourself time, no matter how long the process will take. And in truth, the more time you give yourself, the faster the process will be, because that's how it works. If you're gonna have short results, and some of my customers, my proteges, have very fast results, like in 2 days, 3 days, their lives are completely changed. But if you're gonna push for that fast results, like in the business game, it's like Ponzi schemes, make money quick schemes. It's gonna take very, very long time to get that. And we often have this tendency to use shortcuts as well. And shortcuts only get you lost even further. Like if I'm gonna use shortcut when I go outside to new location, I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get lost. And this is like actually something that I use for myself as well. And I don't recommend it to others, that I'm gonna be lost on purpose so I can be found. But that means that I'm also gonna be in meditative state a lot, to the point that I don't plan, I don't expect, I don't have attachments, I don't have cravings. But all of us are different, and I don't recommend it to anyone that haven't invested tons of hours into the game called meditation or Tai Chi Chuan or Kung Fu, because you cannot start building a house from the roof. You need to build foundations first. If you're gonna build the house from the roof, well, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna fall on your head in the least expecting moment. And I suppose it's gonna be while you're eating breakfast with your family, because when a bad thing is about to happen, it's gonna be in the worst time possible.
That's really good. Well, any closing thoughts?
God doesn't make mistakes, neither does nature. So it means that we are all here for a reason. And we need to embrace that fact and stop fighting ourselves, because in the end, we can only be ourselves. Everyone else is already taken. So, with that in mind, observe who you are, because the ultimate knowledge and wisdom about life is about wisdom about with knowledge and wisdom about yourself. Because if you know how you act, how you react, you can change that, you can influence that, and you can do really great things and become a giant. But if you focus on the things that you cannot influence, you're giving away your power, and then your life will constantly be the same, because you're saying, well, I can only change if that external stimulus change, or if that person change, but that might never happen. So you're gonna be in a limbo. You're gonna start flowing with life, and what you don't use, you lose. So you're gonna become rigid, you're gonna become stiff. And the only thing stiff and rigid in this world are the dead bodies.
All right. Well, were there some things that you wanted to share with our listeners? Some free resources?
I have some free resources that you can access. I have a free email course for highly sensitive people. that I'm gonna give you a link to. Also, if you would like to know more about meditation or more about breath work, I'm also gonna share a link that you can book a call with me where I can guide you to meditate correctly using many different styles, because there's not a lot of talk about meditation, but first of all, it's a tool that amplifies the state that you're currently in. So it's not recommended for you to do it while you're anxious or depressed, or you want to do it at all costs. It's gonna destroy you, literally. There's better activities that you can do. Also, if you're gonna sit in prolonged period of time, it's good to massage the body before and after to ensure that the flow of oxygen, the blood and fluids goes smoothly into the body, which is essential. Also, the posture is very important during meditation. And there are different styles. So if you would like to learn more, within your reach, just reach out, say hello, and we can take it from there.
Okay, I'll have those links below. Well, thank you so much. That was such great information, and especially good for me to reflect on all HSP people are similar, and that they all kind of experience similar things. So I really appreciate that.
The pleasure was all mine.
All right, Giant Builders, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.